Hello everyone, welcome to Master Stage and today we'll discuss about the changing cultural tradition in Europe between 1300 to 1800. So specifically we'll discuss about the Renaissance, Reformation and scientific revolution. Okay, so it is very important for the TET purpose. Okay, so the objectives what we are learning, understanding the cultural changes. So the main cultural changes in Europe between 1300 to 1800. So we'll explain about the Renaissance, Reformation and scientific revolution, and including the causes, features and key people in the Renaissance and Reformation, okay, and scientific revolution. Then we'll discuss what is the modern movements which influence the democracy, science, and personal freedom. Okay, let us see background of Europe 1300 to 1800. So there is a cultural change has begun. Okay, Europe worshipped three main forces that control the most part of the life of Europeans. One is church dominance, feudal system, and limited knowledge. So the Roman Catholic Church had great power over politics, society, and moral. So it's controlled education, law, and daily life. So questioning church teaching was seen as heresy or curse. You cannot question the church authority. So the church controlled politics in the society as well as moral values. Everything is decided by church. Okay, if your church, uh, if you question the church, then that become heresy or curse. Then feudal system. So the society was divided into lords, vassals, and serfs. So land ownership gave power. Most of the people had no land or with little freedom or no chance to moving up in society. Then limited knowledge. So during the 1300 to 1800 in Europe, scientific knowledge was very limited. The knowledge is only based on religion. So ancient Greek text was lost or restricted, which showed learning for centuries. Okay, meaning of cultural changes. Okay, so cultural change means big shift in the ideas, beliefs, values, art, and religion, and science of the society over a time. It usually happens slowly through contact, conflict, and new knowledge. So in Europe, 1300 to 1800, this changed one of the biggest human history, moving from faith-based tradition to rational evidence-based thinking. So ideas change, like what got changed, what got reformed. Okay, ideas and philosophy from religious rules to humanistic and rational thought, art and culture. So from restrict religious images to realistic and human-centered expression, from from church control to observation, testing, and proof. This is the thing. So Renaissance is a new time for the art and learning. So the Renaissance, so between 14th to 17th century was major period of new ideas and arts. So it began in Italy and spread across Europe, so making the shift from medieval world to the modern age. So where is the Renaissance began? It is began Italy and spread across Europe. So this is the thing. So meaning of Renaissance. So many times they may ask in the examination. Okay. So Renaissance means what? It is a French word that means rebirth. It means new interest in classical Greek and Roman ideas, art and philosophy. During this time, during the Renaissance time, art, architecture, literature, philosophy, and science grow very quickly. So Italy, especially rich city like Florence, Venice, and Rome, become the center of this change. So, what is the examination point of view? You have to remember Renaissance means rebirth. It began in Italy, 14th to 18th century. So, the Renaissance period is from 14th to 17th century, that is 1300 to 1600 century. Then origin, Italian cities like that Renaissance origin started Florence, Venice, and Rome. The core idea, bringing back old knowledge and human potential, spread so from Italy to France, England, Germany, and Spain. So it got spread from Italy to Europe. So from Italy to France, England, Germany, and Spain. Okay, this is the important thing. If you want, you can take the screenshot of this one. Okay, then causes of Renaissance. Yes, the causes of Renaissance. So this is not happen at one time. It's linked to several factors. So created the right condition for the major and cultural changes. Trade and wealth. So Italian city state become rich through Mediterranean trade. Okay, wealthy merchants and rulers, especially Medici family, so become important supporters of art and learning. So paying artists, architects, and scholars. So the one of the causes for the Renaissance is trade and wealth. Then rediscovery of text. So ancient Greek and Roman writings, so kept in Byzantine and Arab libraries, they were brought to Italy. So these classical texts renew the interest in philosophy, science, mathematics, and literature. Then one more reason for the Renaissance, decline of feudalism. So the Black Death 1340 weakened the feudalism by reducing the workforce and giving survivors more bargaining power. So a new merchant middle class grew with a strong interest in education and culture. So the causes of Renaissance, you have to remember: trade and wealth, rediscovery of text, and decline of feudalism. Then features of Renaissance. So one is humanism, realism in art, literature, and vernacular scientific curiosity. What is humanism? So the people at the center. Okay, art and thought. It valued the human dignity, reason, and ability. It is moved away from medieval thinking, focused only on God. So instead of focusing on God or blind faith, you have to think about the humanism. So you have to value the human dignity, reasons, and ability. Then realism in art. So arts showing what exactly really. Okay, that means art started showing people were realistically with the true body shape, perspectives, and emotions. They painted portraits, landscapes, and myth stories. Then vernacular literature and vernacular. So writers began using local languages instead of Latin. So they used to write in different languages. So this made books easier for the ordinary people to read and understand and help the ideas spread about the Renaissance. Then scientific curiosity. So Renaissance thinkers began questioning old ideas and studying the natural world directly. This helped lead to scientific revolution. So these are the features of Renaissance: humanism, realism in art, literature, and scientific curiosity. So important personalities in Renaissance. So you have to remember, okay, Leonardo da Vinci, then Michelangelo, William Shakespeare. So Leonardo da Vinci. So he said, so he lived between 1450 to 1519. So he's a true Renaissance man. He was a painter, sculptor, architecture, magician, mathematician, and scientist. The famous books, the famous works of Leonardo da Vinci, Mona Lisa, The Last Supper. So, so the detailed autonomy sketches change how people understand the human body. So, Leonardo da Vinci, the main famous works was Mona Lisa and Last Supper. Okay, Last Supper. Then Michelangelo. Okay, it is 1475 to 1564. A great sculptor and painter. He made David and painted the Sistine Chapel ceiling in Rome. His work showed humanistic ideas by celebrating beauty and strength of human body. So Michelangelo famous works between 1475 to 1564. The he made the David and painted the Sistine Sistine Chapel ceiling in Rome. This is the thing. Then William Shakespeare. Okay, between 1564 to 1660. Okay, 1616. So he's a world great playwright, dramatist, and poet. His works include Hamlet, Othello, Romeo, and Juliet. Okay, so this is a great work. So he explored about the love, ambition, jealousy, and power. So they reflect Renaissance humanism. So important Renaissance personality you have to remember: Leonardo da Vinci, 1452 1515 1519. Then Michelangelo, 1475 to 1564. William Shakespeare, 1564 to 1616. Okay, so impact of Renaissance. What happened through this Renaissance? So education growth happened, individualism increased, then secularism. So they're not given to the importance to the religious and modern age. So Renaissance changed European in and large global society. So education moved from monasteries, churches to universities that more people could join. So people began to value individual achievements and clear thinking instead of simple obedience to authority. So humanist ideas of questioning and observing helped start the scientific revolution and later inspired the enlightenment and democratic revaluation of the 17th century. So you have to remember the Renaissance marks the end of the medieval age and started of the modern age. So these are the impact of Renaissance: education growth, individualism, secularism, and modern age. Okay, so Reformation and religious change debate. So we discussed about the Renaissance. Now we'll discuss about the Reformation. Okay, it is a religious change. Okay, Reformation was a major religious movement in 16th century. It challenged the authority of Roman Catholic Church and changed religion in Europe forever. Okay, these are the important point. Not only listening this class, you have to make the notes of it. Yeah, this is the thing. Okay, so we'll see what is exactly Reformation. What is the Reformation? Okay, Reformation was the in 16th century religious reform movement. You have to remember, Reformation is the 16th century religious reform movement was aimed to fix corruption, abuse of the Roman Catholic Church, it led to lasting split in Western Christianity between Catholic and Protestant. Okay, so the root causes for this Reformation, church corruption. So the clergy lived badly. The Pope focused on politics and was instead of leading the church. So the church was like their acts are very bad, and the the Pope supposed to focus on religious things, but instead of he focused on politics and war, safe of indulgence. So the church sold indulgence, so pardons of sin for money, which many people saw as a wrong, not in the Bible. So if you pay to the church, your sins will be forgotten. So many people are opposed this thing. That is the sale of indulgence. Then educated middle class. So the printing press spread ideas quickly. The educated merchants and scholars began to question church authority. This is the thing. So what you have to remember in this particular reformation, Reformation means a religious reform movement. It started in Germany in uh, 1517, and Renaissance started in Italy. That is the thing you have to remember. Then Martin Luther, the Protestant movement. So, so the 95 Theses in 1517, on 31st October 1517, German monk, his name is Martin Luther. So he posted his 95 Theses, a list of complaints about the church abuse, especially uh, the sale of indulgence on a church door and in Wittenberg, Germany. So the act started Reformation across the Europe. So Martin Luther said that faith alone was enough for salvation, not good for works or church ritual. He also said that Bible was the highest authority, not the Pope. Bible was the highest authority, not the Pope. So you have to remember, in 1517, Luther posed the 95 Theses in Wittenberg. Okay, in 1521, he excommunicated by Pope Leo X at the date of Worms. Then 1522, Luther Martin Luther translated the Bible in German. So in 1555, the Peace of Augsburg officially recognized protectionism. So you have to remember these points. So the key facts: Martin Luther was excommunicated, expelled from the church by the Leo X in 1521 because he refused to take his back his views. So this is the thing you have to remember. I hope you understand by Renaissance, what is meant by Renaissance, Reformation. Okay, then features and impact of Reformation. What happened? So religious freedom, Bible in vernacular language, division of Christianity, spirit of questioning. So religious freedom. Christians could now choose between different churches. The idea that people could read and understand the Bible themselves was the new challenge the church control. Then Bible in local language. So Martin Luther translated the Bible into Germany, and other did the same in French, English, and more. So this made scriptures easy for ordinary people to read. Then division of Christianity. So this one of the impact of Reformation. So Christianity split into Catholic, Protestant branches. So two branches got from the Christianity, Catholic and Protestant. So new Protestant groups like Lutheran, Calvinist, Anglican. So this is the divisions of Christianity, so which spread across Europe and later around the world. Spirit of questioning through this Reformation. So the Reformation encouraged people to question authority, first religious, then political. So this helped lead to later democratic revolution and the enlightenment. So the long-term impact of this reformation helped to lead the freedom of thought, press freedom and democracy. These are the features and impact of the reformation. I hope you understand. Okay, if you are newly watching, please do subscribe and share with your friends. So let us see the third point, the scientific revolution, observation, reason and modern science. So the scientific revolution, so which has happened 16th to 17th century, replaced with religious ideas with careful observation, experiments and logical thinking to understand an natural world. Okay, so meaning of scientific revolution. I'll zoom it. I'll try to zoom it. Okay, what is this? What is the scientific revolution? Is a major change in scientific thinking during 16th to 17th century. It replaced old ideas based on church teaching and ancient authority with a new way to learn, observe, and make guess, test, and check results. So this started of the modern scientific method, the basis of science today. So you understanding? I hope you understand. The scientific revolution was a major change in scientific thinking between 16th to 17th century. So it is replaced with the old ideas based on church teaching and ancient authority. So it gives to new way to learn, observe, guess, test, assume, check result. So this is the foundation for the modern scientific method. So is the basis of or the science today. So what is the through this scientific research what happened? The core principles we introduced, observation. So study nature directly using sense and tools. Hypothesis, so you have to make the logical guess about what you observe. Then experimentation, so test and guess under controlled condition. Conclusion, use evidence to draw conclusion, improve understanding. So it gives something law, science and everything. So this is the thing the scientific revolution brought into. You have to observe, you have to think logically, you have to experiment, you have to have the conclusion with the proper evidence and understanding. This is about the scientific revolution. Then key scientists of the revolution. Okay, so one is Nicholas Copernicus between 1473, then Galilei 1564 to 1642, 1564 to 1642, then Isaac Newton between 1643 to 1727. So what Nicholas Copernicus said, the sun, he said that the sun, not earth, is at the center of the solar system. So his book De Revolutionary Buzz, he like his book De Revolutionary Buzz 1543 challenged the church geography centric view and burden revolution. So he challenged what? So before the church was told the universe is the center, only our earth, but he changed the view. He said that the sun, not the earth, is at the center of the solar system. His book D. Revolution was 19 or 1543. You have to remember for the examination point of view. Then we'll go to Galileo Galilei. Okay, 1564 to 1642. Okay, 1564 to 1642. Okay, so he improved the telescope and used to support uh, Copernicus. That's a Nicholas Copernicus model. He saw Jupiter's moon, sunspot, and craters on the moon. So the church put him on trial for heresy, but he stayed with the evidence. So he faced the trial. So, however, he showed the proper evidence through his telescope. He showed uh, Jupiter's moon, sunspots, and craters on the moon. So then Isaac Newton, 1643 to 1727. So he explained motion and gravity. Everybody knows this. The Isaac explained the motion and gravity. His book Principia Mathematica, 1687. So the book name of Isaac Newton, Principia Mathematica, 1687. So he showed how the objects on earth and the space follow the same law, so creating the math behind modern physics. Remember these? Okay, remember these name: Nicholas Copernicus, 1473 to 1543. So sun, not earth, is at the center of the solar system. His book is De Revelinus Bus, 1543. Then Galileo, 1564 to 1642. He he supported Nicholas Copernicus model. So he improved the telescope, able to see the Jupiter's moon, sunspots, and craters of the moon. So then Isaac Newton, he explained the motion and gravity, and his book is Principia Mathematica, 1687. You have to remember the same and you have to take the notes. If you want to, you can take the screenshot of this one. Okay, impact of scientific resolution. So less blind faith, rise of the scientific method, modern technology, scientific mindset. So the scientific revolution changed the people, found knowledge, moved authority away from religious scriptures, and so they moved away from religious scriptures and blind faith, and they moved towards the evidence and logic. So this helped. Due to this um, thinking or this reformation, so the scientific reformation lead to industrial revolution, modern medicine, engineering, and technology. He's also challenged kings and church, so helping new way to democracy and human rights in 16th 19th century. Okay, exam tip you have to remember: scientific method, that is observation, hypothesis, experiment, conclusion. So remember Copernicus, sun centered, Galileo telescope, and Newton gravity. This is the thing. Then let us have what is impacted in the medieval end of the medieval age. So Renaissance, Reformation, and scientific revolution uh, ended the medieval world, led to the modern society. One is Renaissance. What is Renaissance? Brought back human reasons, art, and learning. So it weakened the religious control over culture and knowledge. Then Reformation. So it broke the church power. It encourages personal belief, religious freedom, and critical thinking. Then scientific revolution. So replace superstitions with the organized knowledge. It build the basis for modern science and technology. Then modern world. So education, democracy, science. So, and individual rights become the main pillars of the Europe and wider world. So, this is the impact to the end of the medieval age, Renaissance, Reformation, and scientific revolution. Okay, so let us have some conclusion. Renaissance means rebirth, started in Italy, focus on humanism, art, and science. Then Reformation. So Martin Luther's 95 thesis, the church split into thing, two branches, Protestants and Catholics. So Protestant churches was formed. Then scientific revolution. Copernicus, Galileo, and Newton scientific method began. Then combined impact, so ended the medieval age, led to modern education, democracy, and science. So what let us have some of the MCQs I made here. What does Renaissance means? Is it revolution? Is it rebirth? It is a reformation or religious. Renaissance means rebirth. Where did Martin Luther post his 95 thesis? At Rome, at Florence, at Wittenberg, at London, at Wittenberg. Okay. Who proposed the heliocentric theory? Okay. Newton, B. Galileo, C. Copernicus, D. Kepler. The right answer is Copernicus. Which country did the Renaissance begin in? Renaissance began in France, England, Germany, or Italy? The right answer, Renaissance began in Italy. When did the scientific revolution introduced? A. Feudalism, indulgence, scientific method, then church authority. The right answer is scientific revolution introduced the scientific method. Okay, so this is a small presentation from my side. Okay, do watch this video again and again, and where you can have the knowledge, you can score better marks in your examination. Thank you. All the best for your coming examination.